any way that this active shooter game could benefit a child.
Well, it may just be a game, but it plays out like a real-life scenario, a school shooting in graphic detail. The game is called Active Shooter, and it lets the player decide who they want to be, law enforcement or the gunman. The goal, to slaughter as many civilians as possible. Well, tonight, WBIR 10 News reporter Daniel Sexton spoke to experts about the game's potential harmful effects on children.
This is the video game people are talking about. It's called Active Shooter, and that's exactly what it simulates. The game was meant to be played as a SWAT team member during a school shooting, but the developer added an option to play as the shooter.
It is jarring, but games like Halo, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty have made gun violence a household entity. But some say this developer went too far.
We've crossed that line, and it's time to walk backwards a little bit. I mean, definitely don't let your children play this game.
Tech expert Dan Thompson and gaming expert Luke Wood agree that the game isn't suitable for children. So does child psychologist Amanda Gillum.
While the research isn't there to support it being directly connected to school violence, there is evidence showing that it does affect our view of the world.
Gillum says parents should be wary of their children playing any active shooter games, even if research doesn't directly tie them to violence.
I struggle to identify any way that this active shooter game could benefit a child.
The developers of the game, called Revived Games, have a history of attention-grabbing titles. They've made other games called Tide Pod Challenge and White Power Pure Voltage. The games are on an indie site called Steam, which means room for regulation is scarce.
There's no laws or regulations that say, you know, what you can and can't put in video games. It's really more up to the consumer to say, we're not okay with this.
This means unless the site chooses to take down the game, it's on parents to keep it out of their children's hands.
Don't buy it, don't support it, and it will go away.
Daniel Sexton, 10 News.
A series of unspeakable games have hit cyberspace, and they are easily accessible to anyone. The game places the player in the body of a school shooter with the click of a button. Type into Google things like Columbine, shooting game, and you will come across thousands of related links, being an interactive video game where you can take on the role of the Columbine shooters, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Then the massacre begins, but this time you're pulling the trigger. Gamer Tom Blacklock was shocked by the games he played.
I was kind of uncomfortable because I knew what I was doing. This was actually based more on like Columbine. You're the shooter, like you're one of the Columbine shooters. I think that's highly offensive. Whereas in games like I said before, like Grand Theft Auto, you're just kind of a generic person and you're just doing kind of generic things, whereas this was definitely more personal.
Columbine isn't the only game you can play. There are games that relive Virginia Tech and NIU. Others are still in creation. Checkerboarded Studios is in the process of making one right now. School Shooter North American Tour 2012. The game has one goal, to become the best school shooter. The website states, the possibilities are endless. You're free to do whatever you want, so long as it involves shooting people in a school.
They desensitize students to killing, and the games show rewarding for school shootings.
With these types of games in circulation, Hinshin assures that Dubuque schools block these sites and encourages parents to monitor their children's internet activity. Now, we tried to contact the developers of these games, Checkerboarded Studios, but they did not return our email. Reporting for LCTV, I'm Molly Devine.
Christmas stocking. Video games have become a $4 billion a year business, and a great many children, as you parents know, have put them on their Christmas lists. As ABC's Bill Greenwood reports, there is a growing concern on Capitol Hill that parents who buy some of those games may not realize just how much violence they're getting.
One of the most vicious games is called Mortal Kombat. The objective is to finish off your opponent violently. Another method is decapitation. Critics, including the National PTA, say such video games contribute to violence in real life. And television's Captain Kangaroo says parents are not paying enough attention.
Understand that these are not harmless toys, that they can indeed cause great emotional and other damage to a child.
Congress will be asked to establish a rating system to protect children from gruesome games.
We now require warning labels on toys
that can potentially damage children's bodies. Why not do so on a toy that can damage their minds?
Barry Rhodes bought the game anyway, since it takes a special code to activate the violent scenes, which he says are a part of life.
It's there, so I'm not going to try to hide my daughter from that.
Even so, the giant Sega Corporation recently introduced a voluntary system to rate video games for use by a general audience, those over 13 and over 17. But there are lots of places where youngsters can play video games without such guidance or adult supervision. So next week, the U.S. Senate will conduct hearings on ways to supervise the video industry. Bill Greenwood, ABC News, Washington.
And that is our report on World News Tonight. Later on.